The door swung open before he could stop it. For a split second, time froze as their eyes met, hers wide with shock, his with mortification. In that moment, standing in the doorway of what he thought was the supply closet but was actually the CEO's private changing room, single father Marcus Chen knew his new job was over before it had truly begun. What he couldn't possibly know was how this mortifying mistake would completely transform both their lives forever. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that will touch your heart. Your support means everything to us. Marcus backed out of the doorway, stammering apologies as he pulled the door shut. His face burned with embarrassment as he leaned against the wall, heart pounding in his chest. 6 months unemployed, 2 weeks into this custodial position at Horizon Technologies, and now this. How would he explain to 8-year-old Lily that Daddy had lost another job? The thought of disappointing his daughter again made his stomach twist into knots. Victoria Reeves, CEO of Horizon Technologies, stared at the closed door, her hands still frozen in the act of buttoning her blouse. In 15 years of climbing the corporate ladder, she'd faced sexism, backstabbing, and cutthroat competition, but never simple, genuine embarrassment. Something about the absolute horror on the man's face, not leering or predatory, but mortified, had caught her off guard. She finished dressing quickly, her mind already calculating the appropriate response to this breach of privacy. Outside, Marcus was gathering his cleaning supplies, preparing for the inevitable. He'd be called to HR, escorted from the building, and that would be that. Another failure to add to his growing collection. 3 years since May's death, and he still couldn't seem to get his footing in this new reality as a widower and single father. "You're the new night custodian," a cool voice stated behind him. Marcus turned to find Victoria Reeves fully dressed in her signature charcoal suit, her expression unreadable. He'd seen her before, of course, her portrait hung in the lobby, and occasionally he glimpsed her leaving late at night while he was starting his shift. Up close, he noticed the faint shadows under her eyes, carefully concealed with makeup but visible in the harsh fluorescent lighting. "Ms. Reeves, I am so sorry. The doors look identical, and I thought." She held up a hand. "Your name?" "Marcus Chen." "Well, Mr. Chen, I assume you've been properly trained on which areas you're authorized to clean?" He nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, ma'am. It was an honest mistake. I was looking for cleaning supplies." Victoria studied him for a long moment. Something about his direct gaze, the way he didn't make excuses or try to charm his way out of the situation, caught her attention. In her world of corporate politics, straightforward honesty was refreshingly rare. "The supply closet is the next door over," she said finally. "I suggest you be more careful in the future." With that, she walked away, leaving Marcus stunned that he hadn't been fired on the spot. He released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding and whispered a silent thank you to whatever forces had spared his job. What Marcus didn't know was that Victoria had recognized something in his eyes, a weariness she understood all too well. And what Victoria didn't realize was that this awkward encounter would be the first of many that would slowly crack the carefully constructed walls around her heart. The following week, Marcus was meticulously cleaning the executive floor when Victoria emerged from her office well past midnight. He kept his head down, focusing on his work, but she paused by his cart. "You're here late," she observed. "Night shift, ma'am. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Victoria nodded, then noticed the small framed photo clipped to his cart, a smiling little girl with pigtails. "Your daughter?" Marcus couldn't hide the pride in his voice. "Yes. Lily. She's 8. She has your smile," Victoria said, surprising herself with the personal observation. "Good night, Mr. Chen." As she walked away, Marcus wondered why someone like Victoria Reeves would be working until midnight on a Tuesday. The tabloids painted her as cold, calculating, married to her work, the ice queen of Silicon Valley. But the woman who had noticed his daughter's photo didn't seem entirely frozen. What the tabloids didn't report was how Victoria returned to her empty penthouse each night, kicked off her heels, and sat in silence, wondering if success was supposed to feel this hollow. At 38, she had everything she'd ever worked for, and no one to share it with. Over the next few weeks, these brief midnight encounters became a strange sort of ritual. Victoria would emerge from her office, exchange a few words with Marcus, and then leave. Sometimes about the weather, sometimes about a mess in the break room, occasionally about Lily. Never personal, never crossing professional boundaries, but somehow forming a tenuous connection in the quiet hours when the building was empty except for them. Then came the night that changed everything. Marcus was polishing the glass conference room when he heard it, a sound so out of place in the sterile corporate environment that at first he couldn't identify it. Following the noise, he found himself outside Victoria's office, where the door was slightly ajar. Inside, the formidable CEO of Horizon Technologies sat at her desk, face in her hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. He should walk away. This wasn't for him to see. But something, perhaps the same instinct that had him checking under Lily's bed for monsters, made him knock gently on the door frame. Victoria's head snapped up, her eyes red-rimmed but immediately hardening when she saw him. "Mr. Chen. I didn't realize you were there." "I'm sorry to intrude," he said quietly. Is there anything I can do?" The question hung in the air between them, simple but profound. When was the last time someone had asked Victoria Reeves if she needed help? Not what she could do for them, not what she could offer, but what they could do for her. "Unless you can resurrect dead parents or reverse board decisions, I doubt it," she said, attempting her usual crisp tone but failing as her voice cracked. Marcus entered the office slowly, as if approaching a wounded animal. "I can't do either of those things. But I make a decent cup of tea, and I'm told I'm a good listener." Victoria stared at him, ready to dismiss him with a cutting remark. But exhaustion won out over pride. "The board wants to sell to Nexus Corporation. Everything my father built, everything I've protected and grown for 15 years, gone. And today would have been my mother's birthday." Marcus nodded, not offering platitudes or solutions, just acknowledgement of her pain. He went to the executive kitchen and returned with 2 cups of tea, placing one before her. "My wife died 3 years ago," he said simply, taking a seat across from her desk. "Cancer. Some days the grief feels as fresh as the day she left us." Victoria looked up, really seeing him for the first time. Not as the night custodian, not as the man who had accidentally walked in on her changing, but as someone who understood loss. "How do you do it?" "Keep going. One day at a time," Marcus answered. "For Lily. And because May would kick my ass if I gave up." A surprised laugh escaped Victoria's lips. "Your wife sounds like she was formidable." "She was. A pediatric surgeon. Saved countless children, couldn't save herself." He sipped his tea. "Your father built this company?" Victoria nodded, finding herself telling this virtual stranger about Thomas Reeves, the visionary who had started Horizon in his garage, about growing up watching him work, about promising him on his deathbed that she would protect his legacy. She spoke of her mother, the backbone of the family, who had died just 2 years after her father. "The board sees dollar signs," she concluded bitterly. "I see my family's heart and soul." "What would your father want?" Marcus asked. Victoria paused, considering. "He'd want the company to continue innovating, creating technology that helps people. Nexus will strip it for parts and patents. Then you fight," Marcus said simply. "You find another way." They talked until dawn broke, Victoria outlining the corporate politics at play, Marcus offering an outsider's perspective. As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the windows, Victoria realized she had just spent the night talking to her janitor, and somehow felt more clear-headed than she had in months. "Thank you, Mr. Chen," she said formally as they both stood, the spell of the night broken by daylight. "Marcus," he corrected gently. And you're welcome, Ms. Reeves. Victoria, she replied, then added with the ghost of a smile, but only after hours. That night marked a turning point. Their midnight conversations became more frequent, more personal. Victoria learned about Marcus's previous career as an architectural designer before his firm downsized during his wife's illness. Marcus learned about Victoria's lonely climb to the top, sacrificing personal relationships for professional success. Meanwhile, Victoria was fighting the battle of her career, searching for allies to block the Nexus sale. The stress showed in the tightness around her eyes, the increasing lateness of her hours. One night, Marcus found her asleep at her desk, spreadsheets and legal documents scattered around her. Gently, he placed his jacket over her shoulders. The gesture woke her, and she blinked up at him in confusion. "You should go home," he said softly. "Can't. The shareholder meeting is in 3 days, and I'm still short on votes." Marcus hesitated, then said, "Lily has a school play tomorrow night. She's playing a tree. Not a speaking role, but she's very excited about her costume. Would you like to come?" The invitation surprised them both. Victoria stared at him, searching for the angle, the hidden agenda, finding none. "I couldn't possibly." "It might help to step away from this for a few hours," Marcus suggested. "Clear your head. And Lily's been curious about my friend at work ever since I mentioned you." Victoria hadn't attended a school play since her own childhood. The thought of sitting in a tiny chair watching children fumble through lines seemed absurdly appealing compared to another night of strategic planning. "What time?" she asked. The following evening, Victoria Reeves, CEO of Horizon Technologies, sat in an elementary school auditorium wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual power suit. She felt oddly exposed without her corporate armor, but also strangely free. Lily Chen, dressed as an impressively crafted oak tree, stood proudly on stage, occasionally waving to her father when she thought the teacher wasn't looking. Victoria found herself smiling at the child's barely contained excitement. After the performance, Lily bounded up to them, still in her tree costume. "Dad! Did you see me? I didn't move even when Joey kept poking me." "You were the best tree I've ever seen," Marcus assured her, hugging her tightly. Lily turned curious eyes to Victoria. "Are you Dad's friend from work? The important lady?" Victoria knelt down to Lily's level. "I am. My name is Victoria. You were an excellent tree." "Dad says you're the boss of everything," Lily stated matter-of-factly. "Not everything," Victoria laughed. "Just one company. Dad used to build buildings. Not real ones, but on the computer. He was really good at it." Victoria glanced at Marcus, who looked slightly embarrassed. "I've seen some of his work," she said to Lily. "He is very talented." Later, over ice cream, Lily's reward for her stellar performance, Victoria watched the easy interaction between father and daughter. The love between them was palpable, a tangible thing that made her chest ache with an emotion she couldn't quite name. "Thank you for inviting me," she said quietly to Marcus while Lily was distracted by her sprinkle-covered sundae. "I needed this more than I realized." "Everyone needs a break sometimes," he replied. "Even bosses of everything." That night, as Victoria lay awake in her perfectly appointed but soulless penthouse, an idea began to form. An idea born from watching Marcus with Lily, from their late-night conversations, from seeing his architectural portfolio that he'd shyly shown her on his phone over ice cream. The next morning, she called an emergency meeting with her executive team. The day of the shareholder meeting arrived. Marcus hadn't seen Victoria for 2 days, and worry gnawed at him. Had their outing crossed a line? Had she found his company, his life, too mundane compared to her world of corporate high stakes? He was mopping the lobby when the elevator doors opened and Victoria emerged, surrounded by her executive team. She was back in CEO mode, tailored suit, perfect hair, expression determined. Their eyes met briefly across the lobby, and she gave him a small nod before entering the boardroom. Hours passed. Marcus continued his work, but his mind was in that boardroom. Finally, as his shift was ending, the doors opened. Shareholders and board members streamed out, their expressions ranging from shocked to impressed to annoyed. Victoria was the last to exit, looking exhausted but triumphant. When the hallway emptied, she approached Marcus. "We won," she said simply. "No sale to Nexus." "Congratulations," he replied, genuinely happy for her. "Your father would be proud." "I did something else too," she continued, an uncharacteristic nervousness in her voice. "I announced a new division of Horizon, sustainable architectural design, focusing on affordable housing and community spaces." Marcus looked at her in confusion. "That's not really Horizon's area." "It is now," she said. "And I need someone to head it. Someone with vision, integrity, and architectural experience." She took a deep breath. "I'm offering you the job, Marcus." He stared at her, certain he had misheard. "I'm a janitor." "You're an architect who's been cleaning floors because life dealt you a bad hand," she corrected. "I've seen your portfolio. You're brilliant. And you understand what people really need in a home, in a community space." Marcus shook his head, overwhelmed. "Victoria, you can't create an entire division just to—" "I didn't," she interrupted. "The idea has merit on its own. Horizon has the resources and technology to revolutionize sustainable housing." The board agreed, reluctantly, but they agreed. "Your background and experience make you qualified." She paused. "The fact that I've come to care about you and Lily is separate, though I won't pretend it didn't influence my thinking." The admission hung between them, neither quite ready to examine what care meant in this context. "I have a daughter to consider," Marcus said slowly. "Regular hours, stability. 9 to 5, full benefits, salary that reflects your experience and the position," Victoria listed. "And a company daycare that Lily is welcome to use during summer breaks and after school." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "Why are you doing this?" Victoria's professional mask slipped, revealing the woman he'd come to know during their midnight conversations. "Because that night you found me crying in my office, you reminded me why my father started this company, to make people's lives better. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that. You and Lily, you helped me remember what matters." 6 months later, Horizon's Sustainable Community Design Division unveiled its first project, affordable housing units that were not only environmentally friendly but beautiful, designed with families in mind. Marcus stood proudly beside Victoria at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Lily bouncing excitedly between them. The tabloids had a field day speculating about the relationship between Victoria Reeves and her newest executive, a former janitor. They called it a modern Cinderella story, a publicity stunt, a scandal in the making. What they couldn't capture was the truth, how two broken people had accidentally found each other in the middle of the night, how a child's school play had reminded a hardened CEO what joy looked like, how second chances sometimes came in the most unexpected packages. 1 year after the infamous door incident, Marcus and Lily moved into a modest but beautiful home that Marcus had designed himself. Victoria helped them unpack, looking strangely at home in jeans and a t-shirt as she arranged Lily's books on shelves. That night, after Lily had gone to bed, Marcus and Victoria sat on the porch swing, a comfortable silence between them. "I never thanked you," Marcus said finally. "For the job? You've more than earned it. The Sullivan Project alone." "Not for the job," he interrupted gently. "For seeing me. The real me, not just the guy with the mop." Victoria's hand found his in the darkness. "You saw me too. Not the Ice Queen, not the CEO, just me." "I like just you very much," Marcus said softly. "I like just you, too," she replied, leaning her head against his shoulder. Inside, Lily slept peacefully, surrounded by photos, her mother smiling from heaven, her father in his new office, and a new one, the three of them at the company picnic, Victoria's arm around Lily's shoulders, Marcus looking at them both with undisguised affection. Sometimes the wrong door leads exactly where you're meant to be. If this story touched your heart,